66 million years ago, the oceans weren't empty. They were an empire.
Ruled not by fins, but by geometry. The Ammonites.
They survived 3 mass extinctions. They were the ultimate survivors. Or so it seemed.
Perfect engineering. Natural submarines patrolling the water column. Nothing could displace them. They had enemies, certainly. But they had armor. A fortress built of calcium carbonate.
Chamber by chamber, they built their legacy. A history written in stone and pearl.
Adaptable. From uncoiled oddities to streamlined hunters. They own the global currents. Look closely. The Nautilus is here too. A quiet cousin in the shadows.
The Nautilus preferred the deep. The Ammonites craved the light. That was the mistake. With eyes this complex, they saw everything coming. Except the sky falling.
Above the waves, the atmosphere is turning. The clock has stopped ticking.
The food web relies on these tiny specks. Plankton, the fuel of the empire.
Ammonites lived on the surface bounty. They were addicted to the sun's energy.
While the Nautilus scavenged in the dark, the Ammonites dined in the light.
It happens in an instant. The most successful reign in history ends now.
Impact. The energy of 1 billion atomic bombs boils the Gulf.
Chaos. But the blast isn't the killer. The killer is the chemistry.
The sun vanishes. The ocean begins to sour. The acid test begins.
The empire is breached. We need to examine the bodies to find the cause.
The evidence is burying them. Subscribe to the Savannah Sagas to follow the trail.
The impact didn't just kill with fire, it killed with darkness. Global wildfires choke the atmosphere with soot, blocking out the sun for months.
Without sunlight, photosynthesis stops abruptly.
The phytoplankton, the ocean's primary engine, crashes overnight. The base of the food chain disintegrates.
A massive pulse of dead organic matter rains into the deep ocean. Scientists call this dead zone a Strangelove Ocean.
Life on the surface starves first. The Ammonites, addicted to that planktonic bloom, face immediate, catastrophic famine.
But starvation is slow. The real killer is chemical. The atmosphere is loaded with vaporized rock, carbon dioxide, and sulfur.
It rains sulfuric acid. The ocean absorbs gigatons of greenhouse gases. The fundamental chemistry of seawater changes instantly.
The ocean acidifies. This isn't just bad water. It becomes a corrosive solvent for calcium carbonate.
Ammonite armor is built of calcium carbonate. In acid water, their fortress becomes their vulnerability. It starts to dissolve off their backs. Just maintaining their shells now requires immense metabolic energy. Energy they don't have, because the food web has collapsed.
It's a lethal 1-2 punch. Starvation and dissolution. If the ocean's lights went out today, how long could our ecosystem survive? Tell us below.
Meanwhile, the Nautilus is down deep. It's cold and dark.
But crucially, the surface acidification is slower to reach them.
Deep ocean water cycles slowly. It acts as a chemical buffer, buying the benthic, deep-dwelling creatures precious time.
Ammonites are trapped in the kill zone. Their physiology is tuned for the warm, productive surface waters, now the most toxic place on Earth.
How do we know?
The evidence is in the mud. Carbon isotopes in seafloor sediments record this sudden, violent shift in productivity. The KPG boundary line. Below it, a thriving Cretaceous zoo. Immediately above it,
A biological dead zone. The silence is deafening.
The darkness likely lasted for months, perhaps years.
Long enough to completely reset the ecological stage and starve out the giants.
with the plankton gone, the collapse cascades upward. Krill die, fish die.
Then the apex predators, the mosasaurs, starve.
It wasn't an instant, cinematic death for every individual.
It was a grueling, agonizing, months-long suffocation and starvation.
Their legendary adaptability meant nothing when the fundamental parameters of the ocean's physics and chemistry turned hostile.
As the massive plankton bloom rotted, bacteria consumed all the oxygen. Widespread anoxia created dead zones globally. Ammonites were active swimmers with high metabolic oxygen demands. They are literally suffocating in the new Cretaceous ocean.
Ocean dead zones are expanding today due to agricultural runoff. Are we recreating the conditions of the Cape extinction right now? Debate below.
First came the thermal pulse from re-entering ejecta, a global broiler. Then, the long, deep freeze of impact winter.
These rapid thermal swings shattered delicate physiological balances adapted over millions of years of tropical stability.
The biological process of making shell, biomineralization, simply stops under this much environmental stress.
They cannot repair the acid damage.
Fossils right at the boundary show stress marks, deformities, stunted growth. The population was already sickly before the final end.
The entailed ecosystems they relied on, the shallow shelves and rudest reefs,
Collapsed simultaneously. There was nowhere left to hide.
Only disaster taxa thrive now. Hardy, simple organisms that can tolerate low oxygen and high acid.
The Ammonites are too complex to survive this.
The adult population is decimated by the toxic cocktail. But killing the adults isn't enough to cause total extinction of a subclass.
Species recover from mass die-offs all the time. The smoking gun isn't the dead adults. It's hidden in their life cycle.
The fossil record shows a disturbing gap. We find adults right up to the line, but almost zero juveniles immediately after.
This points to recruitment failure, the total inability of the new generation to survive long enough to replace the old.
The Nautilus is still alive down there. Why did their babies survive when the Ammonites didn't? What's your theory?
The answer requires a direct forensic comparison of their reproductive strategies. We need to measure their offspring.
Ammonites were planktonic in their early life, which means drifter. They were entirely at the mercy of the surface currents.
Being planktonic meant being trapped in the top 100 meters of the ocean, the exact zone devastated by the impact winter.
Drifters cannot escape the kill zone. They cannot swim down to safety. They are hostages to the surface environment.
The deep ocean saw chaos too, but it was muffled by kilometers of water. It remained stable relative to the surface.
The investigation now focuses entirely on this microscopic point of failure: the lethal vulnerability of the planktonic larvae.
The environment became the weapon. In the next act, we examine the victims.
The suspects line up. On the left, the Ammonite, tiny, vulnerable. On the right, the Nautilus, robust, independent. Ammonites played the numbers game. Their strategy is called R selection. Produce millions of offspring, invest nothing in them.
They broadcast spawned. Mass releases of eggs floating freely in the ocean currents. A shotgun approach to survival.
Hatchlings were microscopic, less than a millimeter wide. They had no functional shell to protect them yet.
Crucially, they were buoyant. Physics locked them into the surface layer. They couldn't dive even if they wanted to.
And they were hungry. Their tine size meant no energy reserves. They had to feed immediately upon hatching.
Their exclusive food source was plankton, the exact food source that the asteroid just wiped out.
Millions of babies hatch into a cafeteria with no food. Mass starvation wasn't a risk, it was a guarantee.
And the acid? At that size, with shells only a few microns thick, the acidity dissolved them before they could build a first chamber.
Quantity over quality works in stable times. In an apocalypse, it's a death sentence. Which strategy would you choose? Bet below.
Now, the Nautilus. They played the long game. K selection, few offspring, high investment. Inside that large egg, the baby Nautilus develops slowly. It bypasses the planktonic stage entirely.
They hatch on the seafloor, far below the acidic surface chaos.
They are born as bottom dwellers, not surface drifters.
When they hatch, they are already tanks.
3 centimeters of calcified armor, too thick for the weak acid to dissolve.
Crucially, they don't eat plankton. They are scavengers. They eat the dead. And the apocalypse provided a feast.
The very catastrophe that starved the Ammonites fed the Nautilus. The mass death above was a buffet below.
One needs a living garden, the other needs a graveyard. The asteroid turned the ocean into a graveyard.
The plankton didn't recover for 3 million years. That is too long to hold your breath.
The gap is absolute. The adults died. The babies never grew up. The lineage was severed in a single generation. Do you think the Nautilus knew? Or was it just dumb luck that they preferred the dark? Debate in the comments.
Let's reconstruct the crime. 1 year later, the sun returns. But the ocean is a ghost town.
Perhaps a few adults survived the initial blast. But without mates, the alley effect kicks in. Extinction by loneliness. The Nautilus population, safe in the cellar, slowly begins to tick upward. They are the inheritors of the ruin. It wasn't intelligence. It wasn't strength. It was the size of their eggs. A millimeter difference measured in destiny. Squids and octopuses survived too. They abandoned shells entirely or had different metabolic needs. Only the shelled Ammonites failed.
Ammonites had bounced back from near zero before, but they always had plankton to feed the recovery. Not this time.
The Strangelove Ocean lasted too long. The larval bottleneck was pulled too tight.
Their dependency on the surface productivity was their Achilles heel. They were too specialized for a stable world.
The Nautilus survived because it was slow, low energy, and unpicky. In a crisis, mediocrity is a superpower.
We dive today and see fish, coral, sharks. But the Spiral Kings are missing. Their throne is empty.
Imagine a world where they made it. The ocean would be filled with living art. But that timeline was erased.
Now, they are just gems. Beautiful stones that tell a story of a fatal flaw.
2 cousins. One reached for the stars, one stayed in the basement. The basement was bomb-proof.
The spiral was a marvel of evolution. But it became a trap when the water turned to poison.
The bottleneck closed. The generation that never was.
The Nautilus carries the memory of the deep time. A living fossil that watched the kings die. The numbers are brutal. Total extinction versus total survival. Based on one life cycle choice.
The impact changed the rules. The Ammonites were playing the old game.
We remember them as they were. The masters of the Cretaceous seas.
The trial is over. The verdict is clear.
The smoke cleared 66 million years ago.
The empire of the spiral was gone. Ammonites were faster, smarter, and more diverse. In a fair fight, they always won.
But extinction isn't a fair fight. It's a lottery, and the ticket price was metabolic efficiency.
They left us mountains of evidence, a global monument to their specific biological failure. Complexity is fragile. Simplicity is robust. When the system crashes, the simple endure.
When we look at the Nautilus, we are looking at a ghost, a time traveler.
The ocean healed. The plankton returned. But the Ammonites could not wait for the recovery.
Their chambers are now filled with stone, not air. The buoyancy is gone forever.
The oceans belong to the naked cephalopods now. The squid and octopus took the throne.
Is it better to be complex and brief, or simple and eternal? Cast your vote below.
Their geometry was perfect. But nature doesn't care about perfection. It cares about adaptability.
The verdict? Death by lifestyle. They lived too fast, and their babies were too exposed.
The most destructive force on Earth was defeated by a few centimeters of egg yolk.
The Nautilus survived by refusing to play the game. They hid until the fire burned out.
History is written by the survivors, even if they are just scavengers in the dark.
The fossil record is full of cold cases. We are just getting started.
Next time, the king of dinosaurs, predator or glorified vulture, we investigate the T-Rex.
Don't let the evidence fade. Subscribe to the Savannah Sagas. Join the investigation.
I'm your host. This was the file on the Spiral Empire.
Like, share, and see you at the next crime scene.